these are pretty cool bananas.
Welcome to Autosport, the greatest motorsport news site since the record, and today, not only do we have a recap of last week's race in the Formula Rookie US Championship at the Long Beach Street Circuit, but we also have expectations for this week's race at Watkins Glen. So let's start with last race recap. Well, for starters, Massive Lad and RST Motorsport shocked everyone when Massive Lad pulled a massive lead ahead of Darlin Salisbury and Garnet Lee. He scored P1 in the race after only scoring P2 in qualifying, and has shocked everyone by saying that was only going to be just a fluke and said it was only rookie's luck. Let's hope he can prove himself wrong on that statement. Anyways, Darlin Salisbury, P2, after scoring P1 in qualifying and winning last year's championship with Gilly Tran. He says he's devastated at getting P2, but hopefully he can get a better result today. And finally, for last week's recap, Garnet Lee. He scored third place. He could have scored second because of an amazing battle he had with Darlin. He says pretty much the same thing as Darlin. He says hopefully we can have a better race at Watkins Glen next week, and the car was performing. Team Southern Cars made the car perform greatly, and hopefully he can pull out some better results there. So, for next week, Watkins Glen. Well, as we can see from the practice, it looks like Massive Lad was a bit right on the statement. He's scoring pretty low down the score for practice laps. But neither is Darlin Salisbury, and Garnet Lee is only just scoring in the top 5 of practice. Practice doesn't really mean anything though, so qualifying hopefully can be a better result for the top 3 drivers of last week. We predict that Massive Lad will pull out some good results, but not quite the results that we saw at last week for the Long Beach Street Circuit. Forecasts are looking not that great. We've got heavy rain, or heavy clouds as it says in the forecast here, and we start the race off with just light clouds, nothing to be concerned about, nothing to swap your tyre compound over, but then we go into heavy rain near the end of the race. So drivers will have to strategize their tyres for that. It's not worth making a pit stop for, so my recommendation to the teams would just to chuck on some wet tyres, and then you'll be able to control it during the last sector of the race. This has been Autosport, and we'll see you at Watkins Glen. So here we are at Watkins Glen for the second round of the Formula Rookie US Championship, and here we go. Massive Lad overtakes his teammate George Shannon on the start. He comes up next to David Lingle as they go into the first corner. Neil Hopwood in first, Jerome Powell in second, Garnet Lee in third. Massive Lad is coming up behind Garnet Lee as they go through the long sweeping corner. Massive Lad's going to try making an overtake move on Garnet Lee. Garnet's going to try to block him here, as we can see. Massive Lad's going to go for the overtake, and he pops Garnet's wheel off. What the hell just happened there? The media are going to have a talk about that. But no penalty has somehow not been given out. And to be honest, we are not sure how. But that has ruined Garnet's race. Massive Lad's rival Garnet Lee is now out of the race as we speak. He does a little drift out of the chicane there. And here we go on to another clip. Yeah, there we go, Massive Lad having a little bit of a battle with David Lingle here. Lingle is not championship competitor as of yet, but with this battle with Massive Lad right here, that could very well change. Massive Lad goes for a dive on David. He locks up a little bit. David Lingle's going to try and send it from the inside after that corner. They're bumping a little bit. Hopefully we don't have an incident like Garnet did. Speaking of Garnet, you can see there's a wheel about here on the track, somewhere here. Anyways, Massive Lad's getting a little bit of distance on Lingle. Oh yes, you can see his wheel there from the. Oh, just look at Neil Hopwood and Jerome Powell are having a little scrap down for first and second. This is for the first place position in the race, but if you haven't noticed, Massive Lad is the only driver here that is on the wet compound. So when we head into the rain right here, you can see that he's going to make those two positions of Neil Hopwood and Jerome Powell back from them. It'll only be a matter of time before Massive Lad is leading the race at Watkins Glen for his possible second victory, proving his statement wrong after the Long Beach race. He's going to come up through the uphill here. He is catching up rapidly through the rainy section of this race. He comes up on Jerome Powell for last year's winning team, Jiffy Trans. He makes the overtake on him, and now he is coming up on the leader, Neil Hopwood. He's going to try and make some defense, but it's not going to work. He's going to run into the grass, and because of the wet tire compound, he's just going to be able to, Massive Lad's just going to be able to enter in so much faster than him. There is no point in trying to resist it. It was inevitable. Wet tires are the number one strategy for this race. Not worth making a pit stop for, but definitely worth having them on at the start of the race, so you can have them when the rain comes out. Massive Lad comes in here. He's obviously going to dominate this race. So while Massive Lad does that, we are going to be looking at second place at Neil Hopwood. Jerome Powell is only slightly bit behind him, but Hopwood definitely does have a little bit of distance on him. But it's you can see Garnet Lee's wheel there. It's definitely sad to see what has happened to an amazing race by Neil Hopwood due to just a bad tyre strategy in general. Neil Hopwood comes into the chicane here. Jerome Powell may be making up a little bit different distance to Neil, but Neil does seem to be having a good race here. He's going for P2. I think that's the best position you can get in this race as of now. Sadly, because Massive Lad has such a big gap like he did in the last race, but this time it's a much bigger gap purely down to his tyres and the fact that he doesn't have to slow down for anything really. While these people have to be cautious because they're on the slick compound. Anyways, as we cut into the final part of the race, Massive Lad has pretty much just, on the other cameras, Massive Lad has just won the race in P1. The replay will cut out by the time that before Neil gets across the finish line, but Neil just finished in P2, then Jerome Powell behind him. An amazing first half of the race. A lot of people are going to have a talk about the incident between Garnet and Massive Lad, especially the two people themselves. And Darwin did disappoint today, but Jiffy Tran did get in the top 5, which is good for their standings. So let's have a look at the positions for today's race at Watkins Glen. Massive Lad comes in P1, just like he did at Long Beach last week, along with Neil Hopwood and Jerome Powell. RST Motorsports are not disappointing with their strategic decisions and their amazing driver today. Garnet Lee is in P12 after DNFing after an incident with Massive Lad. Kevin Welch actually pit once during the race, which I assume is the reason he got such a low position. And Darwin Salisbury is disappointing Jiffy Trans a little bit by scoring in P8. Anyways, this is Autosport. I hope you enjoyed today's race, and we'll see you next week at Sonoma.